Hey creative cats, and happy new year. Good riddance 2020. This last year seems to have brought on a whole lot of different challenges that many of us didn't anticipate. From the closure of businesses and venues, creatives are finding new ways to be creative during this time. There seems to be two distinct responses that I've heard from creatives during this time, is that either people are being really productive with this extra time, or that they're not getting that feedback from the environment and the interactions that they have with others. And both responses make sense. So in this video, let's explore how to plan for a creative new year ahead. If you're new to the channel, through Creative Conversations, we look at topics to help creatives like you make stuff that matters. In this video, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about how to plan for a creative new year ahead. And for full transparency, this is not to engage in false optimism, to ignore the challenges you might have faced over the last year. To be completely honest, this is something that I'm really curious about myself, so I thought that we could explore it together. So I've gathered some tips that are part creative, part scientific to help us start that process. So if you're interested, stay tuned and we'll move on up. Tip 1. So the first tip that I have for you with a concrete actionable step is the 3 S's. Start small and simplify. So first I want you to identify the creative aim that you have. Then we're going to break it down and simplify it. So the whole idea behind this is to make it more manageable. Think about if you had a big list of 50 different things that you wanted to do. How likely are you to follow through on that compared to if it was just 4 items on your list? So for example, if I was interested in creating a chapbook, I could break that down into selecting just 5 poems. And then from there, I would select just 1 poem to edit and format. From there, we can break things down and work in chunks. So working in chunks is similar to a strategy that you might have heard already, which is the Pomodoro technique, where you work on for 20 minutes and then you take a break. But it can actually be much more simpler than that. Just 5 minutes that you have to spare, and then you can build on this. If you're someone who already has a great focus and can work for a sustained long period of time, that's no problem. Do what suits you best. But this can be a great way to break things down, make them more manageable, start your thinking on the project that you're working on, and as well as promote good habits. If you're worried that having this smaller set of goals will prevent you from accomplishing all the many things that you want to do, don't worry, you can still have like a master list that you draw from. But I would still recommend setting aside, making a new list of smaller goals that you can have within a smaller time frame. That way they are more easily to measure, more easy to track, and you're more likely to follow through. So in terms of action, the things that I want you to do to act on this tip is to take a piece of paper and a pen and pencil and physically write out just 1 creative aim that you have. From there, I want you to write 4 sub-aims that you have that you want to accomplish. And then break that down into identifiable and specific tasks that you can accomplish within the week or month. Tip 2. So the next tip that I have for you are SMART goals. And SMART goals is a project management strategy from George T. Doran, and it's an acronym. So S stands for specific. So like in step 1, set out all the specifics of the aim that you have. Next, M is measurable. So is there something about the aim that you have that you can tell when it's completed? For example, if you're writing a song, maybe mixing is the way that you know that you're done your song. Next is A, which is assignable. Are there tasks that you can assign yourself? Are there tasks that other people can help you with? Assign those tasks for yourself and for the other people who might help you. Next is R, so realistic. Be sure that your goal is realistic. For example, is writing an entire book in a week really a realistic time frame? And then moving on, related in that manner, is the T, so time related. T stands for time related. Is there something that you can mark on your calendar a deadline that you can have. Mark it on your calendar and perhaps set up smaller deadlines that can go along with that big overarching deadline that you have. Another strategy that can build on the specificity of things is to set aside the when, how, why, and for how long. For example, if I want to write my chapbook, I can say that every night at 7:30, I'm going to sit at my desk and write for an hour on my computer. Then, to root things realistically, set up some backup plans, because life happens and things don't always go according to plan. So in my example, say I work late and I have to make dinner at 7:30. Then my backup plan would be at 8:15 I start and write for only half an hour. Doing something like setting up a backup plan helps make the decisions easier when you encounter them. It makes your cognitive load less, so you're more able to allocate those cognitive resources to things like creative tasks. So another strategy or theory of goal setting is self-determination theory by Deci and Ryan. And in this theory, the whole goal is to increase a person's sense of self-control and intrinsic motivation, or the internal reasons why we do things. So some authors really recommend to set out the why of your project. Why do you want to do that creative task? What does it mean to you? What will it enable you to do? Will it let you connect in different ways or feel accomplished? If you're able to tap into your intrinsic motivation, self-determination theory suggests that you're more likely to act. So from this, the actions that I want to take from this step are to, again, take your pen and pencil and write your goal and set out the how, where, when, why, how long, and any backup plans that you might have if you encounter barriers. Oh, and if planning isn't your forte, don't worry, it's not mine either. You can just set the focus in your mind. There's some evidence that suggests just by doing that, you're more likely to complete the task. And if you do make a plan, evidence suggests that you're even more likely, even if you don't carry out that plan, to at least accomplish some components of that aim. Tip 3. Tip 3 is to collaborate. So there is some evidence that being sociable or being held accountable helps and increases our likelihood of completing something. So is there someone that you can think of that you can include in a project? For example, are you a musician and you know a writer that you can perhaps ask to collaborate on songwriting? If you don't have anyone that you can contact to collaborate with, don't worry, there's other options. There's some online workshops that you can be a part of and socialize with people on there, or contact a creator that you know about their work. In fact, you can even share in the comments below and let me know what you're working on right now. So the action that I have for you for this tip is to contact someone you know and talk to them about their work. And if you're up for it, ask them if they want to collaborate on something with you. Tip 4. So tip 4 is to appreciate. And you might be thinking like, why is this on the list? And I can understand why. But I think it's important to appreciate things in our life as well as reward ourselves for what we have done. Very often at the beginning or end of a year, we can start to think about all the things that we want to accomplish, and as a result, sometimes negatively start to get disappointed about the things that we haven't accomplished yet. But we aren't productivity machines, you know, life doesn't work out the way that we want it to all the time. But it's important to just appreciate things in general, I think, because this can encourage us to keep going. This is in part inspired by Jessie Parris-Smith, who had a post that she shared recently about a thing that she would do each year. She would write a letter to herself about all the things that she wanted to accomplish each year. And she would read these back and find that they would make her feel really bad inside. So what she started to do instead was she started to write letters of appreciation to herself. So all of the things that she started to appreciate in the year. And what she found was that made her feel a little bit better, and it encouraged her to keep going and keep making things and contribute to the world. So the actionable step that I want you to take here is to take your pen and paper and write out 3 things that you appreciate. They can be creative, they can be not creative, they can be big, they can be small. It doesn't really matter. It can be something like, I appreciate my ability to communicate. Or it can be as simple as, I appreciate my pet, which is admittedly mine a lot of the time. And don't worry if it feels insincere. That's common. It can eventually feel sincere. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can just write down the things that have happened in your year as a way of taking stock of them and as a way to process things. And if you want to take this a step further, which I really encourage, is to actually write that letter like Jessie Paris Smith. So you can write it to a friend, to yourself, or someone who's passed. But just, you know, take stock of the things that have happened that you appreciate. And don't worry, this isn't to diminish any of the things that you've been through. But if you actually physically write it out, it can be really helpful for you because it can create a coherent narrative and kind of connect your thoughts together. Tip 5. So the last tip I have is to reward yourself. And reward works because it taps into our dopamine system and increases the likelihood that you'll repeat the action again. So if you can think of an action that you set out in step 2, an identifiable task to do, and think of a reward for it. So it can be an external reward, like having a nice meal that you're looking forward to, or it can be an internal reward, like taking a serious moment to appreciate what you've done and give yourself some praise. So have you just finished the vocals on a song that you've been working on? Have you written a page of your book? Write that down, check it off. Check it off 10 times. Do a dance, listen to your favorite song. Anything that makes you feel good. Now, the action step that I want you to take for this is, again, to identify something that you have already completed, choose one reward, and reward yourself. From there, I want you to take your pen and pencil again and write down why you are being rewarded for it. And how it connects to your goal. So for example, for me, if it was, I wrote for 30 minutes straight and it connects to my goal because I am communicating with people and it means a lot to me because of that. And definitely do that happy dance. So what about you? Do you have any tips for how to plan for a creative new year ahead? I'd love to hear what your tips are in the comments below. Join the conversation. I hope you found these tips helpful. As always, my name is Sarah. If you'd like to keep participating in these creative conversations, consider subscribing. Until next time, keep making stuff that matters.